This is Cutting Down the Nets. It's March 2nd. We're deep into March now, and we're dropping off teams. I go from having to handicap 354 teams to now like 342 or something like that. 2-1 came with a little bit of tilt on this Tuesday night. Had two dogs win outright, and then Gulf Coast up 22 in the second half. Gulf Coast up 14 under a minute to go. Gulf Coast up 11 with the ball with 20 to go, and of course win by 9. It just reminds you that this is hard, and your process can be as good as possible, and stuff still happens. But I don't know. I'll take a win the way February ended. So let's get to this Wednesday schedule. And for those of you that have been following for quite some time, you know that I bet dogs like nobody's business. There's just more outs when you bet dogs, and lines are just naturally shaded towards favorites. So if you're identifying value, it's typically on the underdog side. Boy, have I got a surprise for you today. So let's start with some of our yellow games. And the only reason this game is yellow is because shot quality is more in line with the point spread than what Paddy is suggesting here. So again, Paddy is recent adjusted offensive and defensive efficiencies for both teams. And Paddy likes St. John's by 8 here, and they're laying 1.5. KenPom numbers 2, Torvik's 2.7, and then a slight edge to Xavier from shot quality. But Paddy's outperforming the shot quality in these toss-up games, so I'm not even going to sweat that. Nate Johnson's missed the last 4 games for Xavier. Obviously questionable, and it's hard to get college injury news, but something to pay attention to. Would I move the line 8 points for him? The answer is no. Some half-court defensive concerns for St. John's, but they've been playing as a better team for the last 6 games since they kind of got their whole roster back. You know, Pasha's back. They're at full strength right now. And to think that, 2/3 of the games that I'm factoring in this -8 were not at full strength makes me feel a little better about it. If you look at Xavier's profile, it's just weird, man, that early in the year, I think they had adjusted defensive efficiency in like the high 80s, and now they're in like the 107s or something like that. So it's just a different team. So it's a data play. That's where I'm going with the Johnnies. LSU, Arkansas. I am on the Arkansas side, but if you'll notice on BetStamp, I have not made that play yet as of 9 p.m. Central Time. Reason being is KenPom's 3, and they're really giving us no discounts here at Bud Walton Arena. -5.5 is just, it's a rude price because I'm ready to play it, but that's just really forcing my hand. So hopefully someone comes in on the LSU side. Man, this is LSU 3-point defense the entire year. No one's cracked through, and they do some quirky things on defense. They do like this triple switching thing, and certainly allows closeouts on threes easier than some teams can. But I mean, we're getting 2 out of 14, 3 out of 12s, 3 out of 15s over and over and over again. Someone's got to break through. How about JD Note? Plenty of second chance points for both teams, but I do prefer the Arkansas side from a turnover perspective. Now you have to understand LSU forces a ton of turnovers, but Arkansas takes care of the ball fairly well, where Arkansas forces a good amount of turnovers, not quite as many as LSU, but it's an aggressive defense, and LSU far sloppier, and that includes Xavier Pinson and Gaines. Both have high individual turnover rates. So I'm on the Arkansas side, but waiting for a better number. And if it doesn't come, it doesn't come. I would still play it at like 6, and I would hate it. So take that for what it's worth. Notre Dame at Florida State. 10.5 point favorites for Notre Dame. And I think their profile is actually a little stronger than what Paddy shows. They had that offensive outlier against Duke where they didn't make any jump shots. And then they had a defensive outlier against Boston College. So those things happened. I factored them in, but I'm just saying that this 10.5 actually could be higher, which is kind of scary. Now, shot quality, Torvik, KenPom, they're all in line with like a 1.5, 2 point point spread in favor of Notre Dame, but this is where recent efficiency can highlight some plays. And Notre Dame's playing good basketball with the exception of those two games. And against this Florida State pressure, I think they should be able to protect the ball. Don't like playing short road favorites. Don't like playing favorites at all, but I see value there. Wyoming UNLV, you have this classic something's got to give. Paddy, your shot quality. The line's 1.5 in favor of UNLV. Paddy likes the UNLV side. That does include a couple in Fuego Bryce Hamilton performances. Yeah, Wyoming coming off the game where, who was it? Bradley from San Diego State couldn't miss. So this is likely an inflated number on the Paddy side, but either way, when shot quality is favoring Wyoming by 6.5 on the road, just tells me that Wyoming's had a little bit of bad luck lately. I'll sit out Middle Tennessee and Charlotte. Next game that's yellow is the Hilltoppers at Marshall. I think shot quality finally agrees with Paddy here. Marshall has been team kind of regression all year where people are waiting for it to happen. And we finally have a matchup where shot quality and Paddy both say, hey, this game's more like 5 points in favor of Western Kentucky, and we're only laying 2. Now, that's right at like my threshold. Like, there's not tons of value there. But with KenPom at 4 and Torvik at 3, the number, in my opinion, just isn't going to get better. So I made the play at that number. Fordham and UMass, these teams played a few days ago. Quisenberry was back for Fordham, which is huge. I mean, the guy scores like 18 points a game, and they survived like 5 games without him. Shot quality heavily favoring the Massachusetts side. And if I'm being honest with myself, Fordham ran a little hot in that last game. So I'll just take the win from that one and move on and not give any back there. Mason at Davidson. Kind of a tricky one because I'm at 9, shot quality is at 9, but we're just not getting enough value here. Lawyer has missed the last 3 for Davidson. Both these teams limit offensive rebounds, and they don't grab any. That's not a strength to grab any, so gonna have a lot of one and done possessions. So slow paced game, gonna be kind of a grinder. I think it's hard to lay the points there, and there's just not enough value. I was really hoping we'd get something under 2 possessions, but it does not look like that is happening. North Carolina A&T and Radford. I don't know what to do here. This one's thin. It's under my possession. I'm trying to be careful. They split the season series. I think Radford can dictate the pace, and they play far slower than A&T. These are 2 sketchy offenses, but if you look at their profiles, the recent play nod goes to Radford. And please note, this is a neutral site game. So I tried to flag that for every game that's neutral site. This is the time of year that everyone screws up at least once. Many thought the books screwed up by giving the higher seeded Illinois-Chicago the home game today, but because they're leaving the league, they're banned from like hosting a tournament game. So they had to go on the road, even though they had a better record, and that caused a lot of confusion. There was one of these games, at least earlier today, that KenPom had it as a road game, and it was a neutral site game. So it's dangerous out there. Be careful, and that's why another benefit to playing with the possession of value is if you screw up a neutral versus home court game, you got a little bit of buffer there. I'll just note this Old Dominion Louisiana Tech game. I might be a buyer at 9. I'm on the Old Dominion side, but 8.5 not quite enough for me. Duquesne George Washington. This is dark orange, but here live, I could just make that like a lighter orange. See, just like that. The reason it's dark orange is shot quality has George Washington only by 3, but the line's 5.5. So the Dukes are 288 offense and 259 defense, and the recent play is somehow worse. That 288 and 259s for the year, these teams did play once. George Washington blew them out on the road. I don't love that because it's hard to blow out a team twice, but I don't know. Some of that's just narrative based. Like, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Well, when you're the better team, it's not that hard, actually. So big value here for Paddy, and that's enough for me to pull the trigger. Why have a model if it's showing almost 10 points of value and you don't play it? So I'm in. Sacred Heart LIU. Shot quality scaring me away a little bit there. Plus, it'd be thin and laying points. And then ultimately we have Bryant against Central Connecticut, who beat Fairleigh Dickinson. Yes, they did. Fairleigh Dickinson led for, what would it be? 39 minutes and, I don't know, 53 seconds, trying to cover 3 points a few nights ago. And yeah, they didn't do it, believe it or not. Those are the bounces. So Central Connecticut 353 in offense, 341 in defense, but they'll try to slow the pace here. Bryant's not a good defensive rebounding team, but Central Connecticut's not a great offensive rebounding team. This is kind of like that Gulf Coast game from tonight. Like Bryant's going to get all their shots at the rim that they want, and then the rest will be threes that they settle for. And hopefully they make more free throws than Gulf Coast did. So, Mr. Dog Better, the guy who always bets dogs, usually road dogs, because that's where the value is. Look at this freaking card. I'm in shock. And it's probably not going to end well for me. That Davidson -7, be careful with that. I just threw it on there as like, yeah, it's in the pool. And I put a gap here to say, like, that's clearly some second-tiered plays. But we got St. John's -1, 1.5, whatever it is. I grabbed a 1. I don't remember the book. I think Barstool has a 1. Against Xavier. Arkansas, I'm waiting just because KenPom is 3 and 5.5 is an inflated line that's really frustrating. Notre Dame 1.5. I think there's like 3 or 4 1.5s and a 2 out there. Western Kentucky -2, and then George Washington -5.5. This is a favorite heavy thing, and you could look back to the last, like, just go on my bet stamp and you're just gonna see dogs like everywhere for, I don't know, like the last 90 days. So to have a card like this tells me one of two things. One, the value usually lies in the dog. Like I said, lines are kind of shaded towards favorites. People like it. Now that the calendar turned, is the book like purposely shorten lines because people want to bet the dogs, like the crazy March narrative, March Madness, high variance stuff, and maybe these lines are intentional. I don't know. I just apply my same process each day, and this is what it looks like for this one. So God bless us, favorites. This is Cutting Down the Nets. Thanks for stopping by.